because people who built the tramways used the same, whatever that is, and tools. If they tried to use any other spacing, the wagon wheels would break. So this is their narrative for how perfect and how everybody's using the same gauge on these rails, the space between the tracks. It breaks down all of the, the 4 feet, 7.5 inches versus the 4 feet. Spain's gauge right here is the same. Roman chariots formed initial ruts. And finally, we were live at the conclusion regarding NASA's solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, whose dimensions were dictated by the U.S. Railroad's track gauge. The solid rocket boosters were made in Utah, and transportation to the launch site in 4 segments by rail did limit their size, but it was not the track gauge that influenced the limit, but the loading gauge. The gauges of the ruts, supposed ruts, and the gauges of the trolleys and the trams, if you're going to dive into this the way we are. So that's just one more narrative that we're busting. The rudimentary tools that they used, and the muddy roads to build these elaborate constructions and stuff. Like I said, they still tell you that the pyramids are tombs. It's ridiculous. Now you got to remember, guys, when they supposedly went around conquering all these places, supposedly they marched. They all marched everywhere. I don't think they marched anywhere. I don't even think the Romans existed, to tell you the truth. If they did, I'm sure they didn't march everywhere. So this is their narrative for how perfect and how everybody's using the same gauge on these rails, the space between the tracks. Roman chariots formed initial ruts. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Nonsense state that the Romans had war chariots, and it was a wheel gauge of these that set the standard across the empire. Unfortunately, this deceptive tale.
Oh, we don't see any of these cart ruts in these supposed Roman Coliseum.
Caesar may as well have drawn attention to Britain's chariots' use to highlight their barbarity and backwardsness to his readers. Guys, I don't buy the narratives for Vesuvius burying Pompeii. I don't buy any of these historical narratives as far as what they're trying to tell us.